Good morning once again, everybody. This is going to be a re recording of what will be titled Mentally Ill Food Service. Now, this was originally sparked by an AI video floating around where, sheriff's deputies are trying to arrest a fast food worker who shat in the fry later and was, presumably handing out the fries regardless. Now, the chances of that, before we get there, the comment section, of course, lit up massively with people losing their minds, like, people who can't tell it was AI, but people obviously reasonably losing their minds, like, oh my God, this person should be given the death penalty, and no, 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 no. It's just like, okay, all right, chill, bros, chill, chill. Now, I want to throw out there real quick that the chance of somebody taking a shit in a fry later and then still cooking food in it are fairly low, mostly because the other workers will absolutely tear their fucking hair out if they have to smell somebody else's shit getting cooked at like 400 degrees. That's low likelihood of possibility. But I do want to get the point across that if you value your health, you probably should not be eating out at all. All right. Let's cover the basics. It's a well known fact that food service is about on par with quick lube shops, if not worse, in terms of finding. I mean, you have your normal social outcasts, you've got your manic depressants, you've got people who are very borderline on the sanity front, all right? People who can't really fit in with normal society end up doing food service, all right? But then, of course, you also have your ex-cons, rehabilitated, quote unquote, or not. You've got a lot of interesting people, okay? Now, when it comes to food service, this is just an array of stories that should help drive the point home that you really shouldn't um, even bother. All right, first and foremost, we know that probably around the 2010s era, a certain fast food chain had their if you eat inside, they have the pump ketchup, that kind of um in testing, it was coming up positive for seminal fluid. Nut. Yeah, not pretty, not pretty. But whilst that may have been dealt with, it doesn't take away from the fact that that's pretty much on par with what you should honestly be expecting. All right. Now, let me ruin your future eating habits for you. Not too long ago, I heard a story. Don't know what state, don't know where exactly, but I know it's valid. Of a dude with probably the worst working at a restaurant with the worst herpes outbreak going on his lips, on his face. And this dude was apparently lipping plates after they came through the dish pit, after they came through the high capacity dishwasher. Obviously, that's disgusting. All right. Obviously, that's a problem. Um, but nobody cares. Literally, nobody cares. The rest of the workforce didn't give a shit. Nobody particularly gave a shit about that incident. All right. So you've got some dude out there literally trying to infect people with the herp. All right. And that doesn't raise any eyebrows. Think about the level of fucked in the head you have to be, or the level of non-caring you have to reach to literally turn a blind eye to a dude trying to spread herpes via the food. eventually, the food. That's nasty enough, alright? Now outside of nut being in the ketchup dispensers, there are also stories of dudes nutting in burgers, alright? This is the thing, when you go out, if you do go out, order things as simple as you can, alright? If it's some kind of mayonnaise blended sauce, don't do it. Just don't do it. Order things as simply as you can. That way you have a decent idea if it's getting fucked with. All right. Or at least a better idea if it's getting fucked with. All right. Handing out burgers that have been nutted on. All right. That's another one that is not outside the realm of possibility. Of course, especially restaurants with uneven floors, the stank water that builds up in certain areas, that I mean, technically they do get cleaned. Most of the kitchens do get cleaned, but if the water drains aren't exactly functioning properly, if the contractor fucked up when they installed them, what ends up happening is you get, that nice column of stank water around them that just hangs out perpetually forever. I know firsthand that shit will fall onto those floors. If you're lucky, they rinse it off, and then they serve it to you anyway. That's quality right there. That's just the tip of the iceberg, guys. And I mean, it's a pretty nasty iceberg, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. What you have to understand, food service was already sketchy from the beginning when it came to finding labor and holding on to labor. But when you add in the fact that the financial circumstances in this country are getting worse for everybody, people tend to forget that the people at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, the people who end up in these food service jobs, it's not only that they weren't unstable before, but now that they can't make the rent payments, now that they can't afford anything anymore, and especially when you add into the fact that even if these people were decent, were slash are decent, a lot of them are stuck where they are and taking it out on people, on the customer base, is pretty much all you can really do to try to get any kind of retributional satisfaction. All right. They were already in a weak position. Now they're in an even weaker position. They can't even get out from under those jobs. In a lot of cases, for normal people today, right now, whatever job you're in, you can't afford to lose it. Legitimately, you can't afford to lose it. It's either you work a shit job that you hate because you're already in it, or you go collect welfare. All right, that's pretty much all that's left. All right, there's not a lot of hiring going on. I know the numbers just got revised down to wipe out another million jobs or something. It's bad. It's bad. And you also have to take into account that, the way they calculate the numbers, every time somebody files an LLC, that's, I forget if it's 1,000 or 10,000. I'm pretty sure it's 1,000 jobs get added to the, employment records. Every single LLC, even if it's just to shield assets, anything in particular, every single one counts as 1,000 jobs. So the job market's horrible. Pay rates are horrible. Inflation is still eating away at wages. And the result is you've got a lot of people on the bottom who are already weak, who are already under pressure, um, collapsing from it now. All right. We're at the point where the things that you could reasonably put out of the realm of imagination, like the barrier's broken. All right. It it's broken. People are under so much pressure that they're cracking in, I don't want to say fun, but fun and interesting ways. And you do not want to have any fucking part of it. You want to separate yourself from all that shit. You don't want to be going out to eat. You don't want to be doing fast food. You do not want to be going to quick lube shops. You want to stay as far away from people cracking as you possibly can because people are going off left and right. All right. It's just for the most part, you don't see it. Of course, everybody sees the crash out videos and, people losing their shit on camera. The problem is when it's on camera, it's one thing. Okay. The problem is that more and more of the valid and invalid crash outs are happening just everyday public domain, no cameras running. Things are getting really bad. All right. Things are getting really bad. You do not want to be where the problems are. All right. And whilst I could absolutely, push that, yeah, we really need to start paying people decently. I know that uh, current circumstances, corporate America doesn't give a fuck. Does not give a fuck about you if you're a worker. They care about their private jets. They care about their glorified yachts, but they don't give a fuck about you, me, anybody else. Okay? This, mm, mm, stay away from all of it. Just separate yourself. Things aren't getting any easier on people. The people at the bottom already were up against the wall. They're already cornered economically. They're all they're all going off left and right. It, there's nothing more I could say on the subject. Just cover your ass, you know. Anyway, I'll leave it there. You guys have a good one.